let's talk a bit about postdocs because it's an important part of the math academic track, and I've gotten a few comments that people want to become math faculty, which is great. Uh, so this what I'm about to say does apply in general to people beyond, like, people without ADHD, but still I'll share it on this channel just because it's still important to know the things that I'll share. So the first thing is that I'll leave a link in the description for the repository where I have all of my postdoc applications, and I'll show you on screen now here. Yeah, so here's the repository, and it has a good amount of information, and if I were to not update it right now, the information would be relevant for, I'd say, on the order of 5 years. Um, Things are unfortunately changing at the level of the federal government, which could affect a lot of hiring things. We'll see what happens. But for now, this information is still relevant for people applying to math postdoc positions. So postdocs, of course, if you happen to be less familiar with this process, you get your PhD. It's very, very rare for someone with a PhD, like graduating with a PhD, to go directly into a faculty position these days. Like it is exceptionally rare. And so people typically do postdocs, and that's where you do a lot of research, you teach, and you're basically treated like an independent researcher with a lot of the same responsibilities. And I would argue, if mathematicians disagree with what I'm about to say, but it's because what I'm about to say, really, it's a general statement about comparing to general faculty, not just math faculty. But the math postdoc application process is, I think, very similar to general faculty application processes, where you submit your application and it's read by a whole committee that looks over your application, and you're hired by a department, as opposed to science postdocs, which are funded by grants. So in this repository, I have on the order of, there's 338 total applications. 162 of them are postdoc and 176 are faculty, and you'll notice that they're actually very similar when you go through this. And the data here is not especially well organized. I mean, it's as organized as I can get it, but I intentionally haven't spoon-fed or done any more organizing beyond just providing LaTeX code and some of the other kind of human-readable documents, text files and such. So how you handle the information on this repository is up to you, but if you want to start, just look at the info directory, which has more detailed information about the whole process. So I won't rehash that here. I will say that if nothing else, you can read the presentation by my friend and colleague Chris Kapulkin. He's currently at Western University, and he has a whole presentation, Beamer presentation, about the postdoc application process, and some bits about the expectations and such. So that's kind of a bare minimum, I would say, if you are thinking about that math academic track. It really is well worth your time. And so my repository is a complementary version to this. It's a bit more of a detailed look at what an application looks like. And the reason why I have so many is in part because it's very, very hard to get a department postdoc. You're competing with as many people as you would with a faculty position. And second is that everyone uses mathjobs.org. Every department uses mathjobs.org. So you log in as some applicant. I don't remember I don't remember my login right now. But you can more or less shotgun all your applications. So that's why there's so many. It's not like I handcrafted each and every one. However, I did use lots of macros. So I had a document, like a subdocument about research in my cover letter, subdocument about teaching in my cover letter. And then I put in, I had additional macros for random things depending on what the department was like and what they were looking for. So I had different background documents based on, let's see, so this says doc background. Let's just see what doc background is. Yeah. So yeah, this is just a little mini document about my background, and I would customize this. I would have various versions of this based on which department I was applying to. Okay, and you can see, so this, it's important to talk about this because the amount of rejections you'll get is kind of insane. Because yeah, it's such a competitive position, and you never know what the hiring committee and the department needs at the time. I have cat hair all over my face, so that's why I keep rubbing my nose. Anyway, I show you some data about the specific timelines in some of these spreadsheets. So 2018 to 2019 application cycle, I applied to postdoc teaching and tenure track jobs. So the red ones are just ones where I knew I got a rejection, and I do note where I actively went out and queried them to see if I was still rejected. And yeah, and you can see a lot of red, and I even queried a lot that they just never got back to me. And that's very much normal. And if I didn't query a lot of these guys, they never would have said anything. So that's the only reason why I knew I was rejected this many times this particular application cycle, because I went out and queried people. And you can see of all the postdoc applications this year, I only got 2 offers, and I accepted 1, declined 1. I had 6 Zoom interviews, and also the one that I declined was only for a year and a half. So, and then the one that I accepted was funded by a NIH grant, so it wasn't even a department postdoc. Yeah, it's rough out there. So these Sankey-Matic charts show they give you an idea of just how much rejection there is. For 2020 to 2021, I didn't apply for 2019 to 2020, but 2020 to 2021, the faculty applications, I ended up having 1 on campus, in quotes, because it was a Zoom on-campus interview, but we ended up not getting the offer. And then for postdocs, yeah, 60 out of the 79 applications didn't even tell me I got rejected. Only 17 of them told me I got rejected. And then I got an offer, and this was also, this was the PIMS postdoc fellowship, which is a Canadian program. So still not a department postdoc. It was half funded by my postdoc advisor and half funded by the PIMS program, the Pacific Institute of Mathematical Sciences. And then while I was I moved to Winnipeg in Manitoba in Canada, and then I applied one more time for only faculty applications. You can see again, out of 88 applications, 73 didn't even bother to reply. Only 7 told me I got rejected. And here it's a lottery, and I was very, very lucky this year and got 5 on-campus interviews. They ended up being Zoom interviews, but nevertheless, 5 on campus. And I got 1 offer, checked with the other guys. Turns out I wasn't at the top of the list in all the other places. And by the time they would get a reply, I would have had to make a decision at University of Florida. So I just took that offer and ended up withdrawing these 5. But I would say this is pretty normal across whether you're pure math or applied math. I will say that from what I heard from my applied math colleagues, that these numbers are actually quite low for when it comes, especially when it comes to postdoc applications. But for pure math, these are decent. Yeah, because pure math is a lot more competitive. Let's see. I think that's it. Yeah, so there's spreadsheets here if you want to look at anything. Everything here is just as is, but yeah, and I guess I'll show you a few more of the cover letter. So when I was applying, people needed the EDIs, the equity, diversity, whatever. And I had a few different versions, right? So I had a bibliography for all the EDI stuff, and I'm showing you, because I don't know if people need EDIs these days, but I'm showing you just to show you how I organize this stuff, and I'll show you the research statements too in a moment. But I had a few different versions depending on, again, the department I was applying to. If they emphasized mental health stuff, then I included stuff about mental health in here. This stuff, I will say, I didn't have anyone look over it. I just Googled some examples and try to work off of that. It's not like a lot of this stuff is not like it's not as there's kinds of writing where the writing itself is really really important, and writing for applications is a bit faster and looser. You just need some broad important things. In a particular, let's see, EDIs are irrelevant now. So there's the teaching portfolio. They say you need a teaching statement, but it's really a teaching portfolio. Here's my teaching philosophy. I just threw in all the kind of buzzwords for all the pedagogical stuff that seemed kind of relevant. And let's see. So as part of the teaching statement, I also include my teaching experience. And when it comes to math postdocs, especially for department postdocs, having a strong teaching experience is very important. So at the time, I felt very unlucky that I had to teach basically all 5 years, fall, spring, and summer when I was at the University of Pittsburgh. But it ended up being actually very good. It was very good and I had lectures as part of my teaching portfolio, and that was just a really good thing. They need to know, these departments want to know that you can be a good teacher, that at the very least that you have teaching experience, and a lot of it, because you're competing with other mathematicians, that other PhD recent graduates or postdocs that have a lot of teaching experience too. And traditionally, math funding comes from teaching, as opposed to the sciences where a lot of funding tends to come from grants. So we're a lot like the humanities, maybe like econ, maybe some like a little bit like physics too, in that sense that there's a lower emphasis on grants and more emphasis on teaching. Nevertheless, teaching is important, and I really made sure that when I was at Brandeis for my second postdoc, I went out of my way to actually teach lecture classes, because I didn't have to, which was great, but I wanted to be in the math department, so chose to teach some classes. And then, summary of selected teaching evaluations. This was, in hindsight, I'm glad that I put this in, because it makes the person reviewing my application see the highlights. And and you can put in the best evaluations if you like. I also have, you can see I have various versions of my teaching statements, again, based on the needs of the department. And I also have so I include evaluations in this. I included a syllabus for one of these. Yeah. And then the research statement. So the list of publications, some departments just ask for that, so I just had a quick one. Research statement. Looks like I don't have a PDF of it, which is too bad, but that's fine. I guess I can pull up some research statements here. So this particular department wanted some data science project plans, so I just came up with some. Research statement. So some departments wanted a very short research statement, so others were okay with a longer one. Typically, I aimed for 5 pages plus references. Some wanted 2 pages, some wanted 1 page, some wanted a few more pages. But I just summarized mathematically. I included some figures as well for the most important contributions, and it's a condensed summary of what I did. That's intelligible to a mathematical audience. So I guess this one ended up being 5 pages. That's good. So I had some figures here, future work. And when I was evaluating postdoc applications, something I looked for was evidence that the applicant could carry out independent research. Because when you're applying to department postdocs, you really will be treated like an independent researcher, an independent mathematician. So so you should make sure that you highlight or just include future work somewhere. And I think I did this for each section. I did this for each section. And since the audience for this is a general mathematical audience, you can be a bit terse. That might be better. And another thing that I did for all of these things, not just the research statement, but for the teaching statement as well, I try to make this skimmable. So people evaluating applications, they're looking over easily hundreds of postdoc applications. So it really helped to highlight things so you can see a few bolded text. And then I also had clearly defined sections. I try to make things as well organized as possible, and highlighted just like the key results and my contributions, and that I'm sure that helped. Okay, so the research statements for these other, so you can look through these if you like. I had a main template, and then I had like various versions of that as kind of starting points, and then I customized them as needed for specific departments if they needed something more like a little bit different from what I had as a template. So another thing also is that it helps if in the research statement, at least somewhere, at least in the cover letter, at the very least in the cover letter, and I'll show you some cover letters here. Yeah, maybe I'll do a tenure track cover letter. Very least, mention the people that are relevant to your work, that can evaluate your work, that you can collaborate with. And you can see that I did this for literally every, I highlighted all the names in the third paragraph. And the way that I structure my cover letters in all of these, I would say is a good starting point. Like here's like, I'm applying for this position. I completed a PhD in math with this advisor. Here is where I am right now. And then I was told I gotta sell myself. So I normally wouldn't describe myself this way, but I'm competing against hundreds of other people. I better try something to set myself apart. So I'm an ambitious applied mathematician, positions himself at the forefront of multidisciplinary discoveries, including mathematics and biology. So I highlight some of my research accomplishments here, summarize a bit of my research here. So this is a bit wordy, I will say. Just a little bit wordy, but basically the flow is like a bit about me, a bit about my research, how I can fit in with the existing faculty that are similar to my research, and then a bit about my teaching. Okay, and it's the same format. So I used a template, and then I would fill in. I would have a macro for the university name at the top, so I just put that in, and the university name would show up. And I would have an empty spot for all the relevant faculty. So I don't know why I didn't bold these names. Another thing I would do at the suggestion of someone else that I found actually to be a very good bit of advice was to email the relevant faculty once I applied to the postdoc position. Yeah, so a lot of the stuff is kind of a shotgun thing. Yeah. Yeah, and I tried to also just take a little bit more of a step, not just mention their names, but mention where the department might be lacking in something, where I have a greater strength, and mention that. Yeah, there's a lot here. This is just a summary, but I'm happy to do a more in-depth discussion of what a good postdoc application looks like if you like. Just let me know. Okay. Thanks for being here. I'll see you soon.